Hereby call to order the Jefferson County Board of Zoning Appeals. So it looks like we have a quorum. I think only one absent is Commissioner Lakins, per se. I would ask the members if they've had an opportunity to review the minutes from the past meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals and looking for corrections or approval.
I make a motion to approve.
Got a proper motion
So,
and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Do we have any citizens input tonight for the Board of Zoning Appeals?
no.
Okay, being none, we'll move on to the first item. Determination if a travel worker campground is allowed in the I-1 Industrial District by NISTAR Tennessee Mines.
Yes, sir.
Kyle Spalding?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Kyle's representing the mines, and he come in and talked to me, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Right
it
after,
was-
couldn't get on last
Right
month.
as you guys had
Yeah.
the meeting.
And I understand what he's asking, but as you all know, campgrounds are not allowed in I-1, and that, the mine property. But I'll let Kyle tell you exactly what they want to do.
So I've got a lot of information. I wasn't sure what you guys would need or what you wanted to know, so I probably over-prepared. I don't know if you guys want any pictures or any of that to help kind of give imagery to what I'm going to talk about. This is my first time doing this. So.
Okay, I mean, I suppose, I guess the question is that the reason that what is the main reason that you're
Okay.
needing to do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
tell
we'll-
him why you want to.
We will start there. So the mines we're like 80 people short on employees. And so we have a huge hiring campaign in the area. We're working really hard on trying to bring local people in, but it's not meeting our needs. And so we're having to go to outside contractors. We're going to Kentucky. We're going down to Alabama. But when we're going that far to try to bring people here, we're running into issues for places for them to stay.
Okay.
So they bring trailers, RVs, but usually those campgrounds are tied up with tourists who want to go see things. And so the idea was brought to my group's attention of, well, could we just put some hookups? So if we have these people who are coming to see if they want to work here, can they stay basically on property we work 20 and 10 or 7 and 7. So you work 7 days and you have 7 days off, or you work 20 days on and 10 days off. So depending on your schedule, you'd have, you drive in with your trailer, you pull up, you work for your 20 days, you go home for 10. And that's the complication with coming to these campsites is they'll have somewhere for 20 days. When they leave, sometimes they have a hard time finding a place to stay when they get back. And so we're just trying to bridge that gap on how do we bring people in. So far, we've had 2 of those employees buy houses in the area and stay longer term, but it's just hard to find somewhere for these people to stay when they come.
Okay. So in order for them to be a campground, they would need part of their, wherever this was at. If they were to be A1, then they could do a campground, no issue, right?
Right.
It's just right now is in the I1, we don't have anything in there designated for a campground, is that correct?
Right, we don't have any residential or any of those type of activities as allowed uses.
Okay,
And I don't think he would have a problem, I think we talked about this,
That's-
rezoning whatever you wanted to do back to A1, right? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we did talk about the possibility of rezoning this area. Currently, we have, there's like 2 or 3 people working in an office there. It's the old Beaver Creek mine shaft and all that that's there. It's not being used for basically anything. We've got cores, so when they drill and they bring out the big rock pillars, they're stored and logged there, and that's the only thing that's done there.
How many acres was it? I forgot.
That one is 64 acres.
Yeah, so he could rezone, not all of it, but whatever he needed for the campground, back to A1. if
Yeah.
That's an option.
how many units are we talking about here?
Honestly, I've done designs for 14 units up to 50 units. It'll probably land somewhere closer to 20, and this would not be open to public. It wouldn't be open to visitors. Like, this is company property for people who are coming to work for 7 days or 20 days and then going home,
Okay.
more or less.
Because I see sort of a way to make this work, but I just don't know if you'll be comfortable with it. But if we, say for instance, we came in there and we took 5 acres of that property, and we asked for a rezoning to A1, which allows the use that you're talking about here, because basically you're allowed to stay 29 days, then when you leave, and you come back, you get to stay another 29 days, which, what you told me, that would work from that standpoint. So, because there's no more permanent, full-time living in there. But what you're
Yeah.
saying is they would come, work, then they would go, and then they would come back. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay. But you would have to, here's where the rub's gonna be probably for you. You're gonna have to fulfill the requirements for what we have for a campground. And I don't know if that's something that you all were willing to do.
Yeah.
Have you looked at those? Has he-
Yeah, I've
Yeah, I
got the
gave him
site
them.
regulations here, so, I can give them all to you. The ones in green are ones that we already meet, but the ones in red are where exceptions would make it or break it. So, for example, having like shower, laundry facilities at that location, all these employees where they work have showers in all those facilities, but it would not be at the campground itself. So they all shower
Yeah, they
on
shower when
site
they come
after
up,
they
yeah.
come up, and then they go sleep, and then they go to work. So this is where there's some complications with that, and based on these standards, we have to allow for tent camping. That would not be allowed at all. So I don't know if we can get an exception for that. Like, you have to be in a trailer.
You don't have
for
to have
tent
that.
camping.
You don't know, no.
We just make an allowance for.
You know, and
if it's
visitor
proposed.
parking, like, again, visitors aren't allowed, so if we have to set aside visitor parking, that's one of those that's, like, this would be essentially gated. You would have an employee badge that would allow you to badge in and stay there.
Okay.
So, and we can try to accommodate to it, but essentially it also comes down to cost. So if we have to build certain facilities, it gets out of that budget of what we have to try to do this, and then we're just still looking for other solutions.
Does it state in there that the bath facilities have to be constructed on site?
Well,
Yeah,
Could
Part D,
I know, but
on-site office, club, house
Yeah, we
facilities,
have
building,
that.
housing, and office, restroom, showers, and laundry facilities is required. And it also states that we need to have somebody on site. Now, we do have, we call them dispatchers, but they're, all the calls, everything's routed through that person, so that'd be our point of contact. There is always someone on 24/7.
right.
While the research now, I've got a question I'd like to ask.
Yeah.
And just going back to the reason for the need of, at the height, how many people have you found yourself short? You said you were currently at 80 right
yeah.
now. Has it been worse than that, or are you at the height of things right now? And how long has the hiring campaign been taking place locally to try to meet those needs?
So we've been at it about a year. We've recently had a change of management because we were driving away people faster than we were able to bring them in.
Okay.
And so it has only gotten worse, and corporate folks out in the Netherlands and Spain and all that jazz, they want us to increase production.
Wow.
We can't increase production with more people, or without more
More
people.
people.
So we're, I think, going to be trying some new stuff in the area, potentially looking at different benefits, whatever might attract local folks, but if we can't bridge that gap with increased production, that 86 could look like 116 by the end of the year. And how do we get those people in if we can't find them locally? So,
I understand. And that, going back to my original question, you think we're at the height of it right now at the 80?
I hope so, because we're also calling anybody who's quit, been fired, let go, anything. I guess that's the new thing, is we're just calling anybody to see if they'll come back to work and what we need to do to fix it. So,
Okay. And like I said, I know that doesn't go exactly with the zoning. I'm just
that
curious
is a good
about
point, though. Like,
the
are we
reason
trying
why.
to cover it on this end, or just trying to go out here? Yeah, we're doing what we can. I think we're going to get, I mean, I can't speak for numbers, but I know at least of 5 guys personally that are going to be coming back. So that bodes well for that gap. And we may not end up needing this, but come August, if we're that short, it's like, okay, let's get something, you know, construction-wise going. We'll throw in, let's say it's only 10 or 15 units, we need hookups.
Right.
Then that's, so when I say 50, I don't have a realistic number, because it could only be 5 or 10. And so far, we've been able to manage with the local RV parks, but it has been an issue with some of the folks coming in, that the contractors or people coming from Kentucky in particular, the coal miners, have expressed difficulties with that, and we were asked to see if we could come up with some kind of housing solution.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. I'm reading here on your things here. So A is not gonna be an issue. And B, I think,
It doesn't,
That doesn't matter
if we're
because
kind
you
of
got-
rezoning or whatever that ends up looking
yeah,
like. We have
5 acres,
64
you got more than
acres.
that, so that B is not.
Not an issue, yes.
Yeah,
Unless it has to be
Okay,
a designated park.
E, I think would not be an issue the way that you told me that you're gonna do it, because you said basically the workers that are gonna be staying there are not gonna be staying there longer than, basically about 20 days, then they go home.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, so E may not be. And you said you have an on-site manager,
it's 2.1 miles away, so Young Mine, I've got a map to show you where all the sites are, but we have dispatchers and hoistmen that are on call 24/7.
okay,
That's who we route our calls through. If there's an emergency, that's who it goes through, into the mine or out of the mine.
so that would be, I don't know, David, I mean, if they fenced that, would that be, I don't know if we could,
But yeah, if you change that, then every other one doesn't need it, so that's the issue where, so if we have to build an office with the restrooms, the showers, laundry facility, that gets, and the laundry facility is really the only rub. They typically, the guys that work in the mines, they just wear mine clothes and they put it in a bin and that goes out and gets laundered. So their own personal laundry, I'm assuming they take it home with them when they go home and they come back with fresh clothes, so.
And this would be on mine property where this
Yes.
would be proposed, okay?
Yes.
It's in zoned industrial? Okay.
Yeah, so this is the property that's currently, there's no mining activity being done from
there
that
pictures there?
property. Yes,
Can I see one
so,
of those, please?
yeah, let me give those to you.
Thank you.
No, to work in a hospital out there.
Okay.
When
Sorry.
the oil stuff was going so good. And they just bought a camper until they
Zoomed in,
could,
it gets further out. Yes,
buy a house.
yes.
Well, in the campgrounds that they lived in was all these oil rig workers that, you know, most of them had their own trailer
Yeah.
or a fifth wheel or something that they brought. But I don't think that and those people were complaining about it, the men working the rigs. They had to live in a KOA campground just because that was available there. So they weren't allowed to leave and then come back. You see what I'm saying?
Oh.
You know,
Yeah,
so if they did, they could take their rig, but they had to keep paying on that the
Yes.
whole time.
yep.
You know, to reserve that spot and stuff. So I just remember my son talking about he made friends with some of the not miners, the oil riggers
Yes,
out there.
it's
And
very
they
similar
had
to
a,
that.
yeah,
That's in the
they
Bourbon
had a
Creek. That's
severe
Bourbon Creek.
problem with that.
That's hard.
You know, then when the oil and everything went down, there
I
was
think it is.
nobody
If you look at
in
the
that
map, it's a bigger
campground.
map. I
You know, my son had bought a house by then.
This is right
but,
off the old way.
that all of those oil riggers were
Like it's hard
gone. They
to
just
switch
poured
or
out gum, so that
That may
campground was
be-
just sitting there.
I can't remember.
Still
Sun-
empty.
It looked like Sun Road.
Saturday or whatever
You
they.
know, but the company
That's that little horse.
The
ring
oil
right
people,
there on the left as soon as you start
weren't
down
real
through there.
sympathetic with these riggers. You know, they really weren't. And they didn't really help provide anything for them. So I think your miners ought to be very well pleased with that situation, if we could work it out for it to.
ORNL has got kind of the same issue. They don't have a place for their people that come in, you know, under contract workers for them
Right,
to stay.
right.
And I happen to know that as the person that works in Kingston.
And has to drive.
And they just don't have, there's not enough campgrounds for them to stay in.
Straight.
And they want to stay longer, like for 60 days or something, as opposed to the 29-day cutoff. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Utility wise. who serving you?
So
KUB?
KUB serves that area, but we have power running in, water, our sewer stuff, and I guess we're responsible. I've been talking to our facilities group, and they said that we're responsible for everything on site. So we've got all the transformers to hook up power, we've got everything. Potentially we would contract it out, but realistically, like, we have the skill set and equipment to be able to do it all ourselves. We are looking into other avenues, so I mean, I'm open to ideas, honestly. Like, I'd like to have an option for these guys, because occasionally, so when I first hired on with the company, the closest place they could find for me to stay was West Knoxville. Now they're having to stay in Farragut and even further out. So when we bring interns in for the summer, they'll have an hour and a half drive to come to work. So I guess the housing situation is just a little tough.
Yeah, housing's a problem and worker shortage is a problem
Yeah.
and stuff, not just in your industry, but I think all over.
Everywhere. Absolutely
Yeah,
agree. So I don't know that I see this going away. Even trying to bring contractors in, I don't know if we can fill that gap fully, because it's just hard to find people to work right now, and that doesn't make sense. to
I'm
me.
sympathetic to you. I'm trying to think of a way to handle this, quite honestly. I almost wish we could say that the housing was accessory to the industry and could be allowed that way, but I don't really see how that's not a good way to look at it, I don't think, as far as the way the zoning ordinance is written.
No.
No. I would think that
No.
rezone it back to A1 part, and
Yeah, and
then
I
worry
don't
about
think
the
it-
rest of it when he comes to the site plan.
I think rezoning would be realistic to go from an intense zone like the M1 to a less intense zone like the A1
In Line
district.
County.
You know, it's, where you get into trouble when you rezone is if you go from like a residential district and then put in an industrial district right next door or something, that, then the intensity of an industry or heavy commercial area would have an impact on a residential as opposed to vice versa.
And I haven't looked at everything that's allowable under the agricultural. I know that the RV thing was, but my concern with that, I mean, I would just need to get the information, because I couldn't find industrial, like everything that was specified online, but this was an industrial site. We're not firing it back up, we're not anything else, but we occasionally might run power cables through this area. Like, there's things that we still use that shaft access
Yeah,
for. We
I
pump
think
water out of the mine, so I don't want any
That wouldn't
conflict
change.
there.
Yeah,
so
you'd be fine with
that's
that, I'm
where-
sure.
You just change the zoning on 10 acres or 5 acres, wherever you wanted the park to go.
Well,
And leave
We
the
can't
rest of
really
it
grant a
out.
variance to, the way the state law is written on variances. I know we're not necessarily looking at a variance, we're looking at an interpretation.
that's what I'm
Well, but
saying.
we can't do a variance, because state law specifically does not allow variances, except when there's a piece of property that's irregularly shaped.
Okay.
Well, it's got to do with the property itself,
Yeah.
the physical characteristics of the property, where it can't be used because of zoning, and that's when variances come into play. I just want to set the record straight on that quickly.
Okay, so here's my question then is that, so we're trying to determination what zone this actually goes into, per se, because it's not a public campground, per se, it's a private use. So my question is that, could we determine that it would be
Accessory to
an
the,
accessory to this zone for an ongoing business, but we could also put some, in stating that in there, into that use, we could put some things in there that we feel like that they might need to do, but they might not have to do everything. In other words, if they've got restrooms and everything else like that already on the site,
if it's already covered.
it's already covered, and they already have a manager there, it's covered. Okay, so the only thing in there really that I see that's left is the clubhouse. So, but now, if they had a place for recreation or whatever, would that suffice?
And that's
Am I-
really,
am I-
the clubhouse is really not so much a recreation thing as it's more, well, you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
but we have the laundry, like what you said's covered. And,
Yeah, the road is paved. It's
So it's
100
already
it's
paved.
831
It's paved, I know,
feet of
yeah,
pavement.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Because I'm just
So-
trying to, I thought we could look at this two ways. One is that we said, okay, no, we feel like it needs to be in an A1 zone. Or we can say, this is an accessory use for this, in an
It
I-1
certainly wouldn't
zone?
be the principal use of the property.
It would be, because there are no permanent structures basically there. It's just temporary housing. And so is there a way for us to say that basically as an accessory use, that a campground could be an accessory use to properties in industrial zones for temporary housing?
The only thing that scares me in going with that, as a BZA, is I want to guard against the Board of Zoning Appeals acting legislatively. You know what I mean? Amending the zoning without going through the procedures that state law requires for, like, you know, amending the requirements for the text, not just the text, but also
Yeah.
the map. And I want to make sure that, but you know, that makes perfect sense.
If we did that and we said it, but we wanted the conditions, then would it not have to go to the planning commission, and the planning commission would have to come up with some conditions for this accessory use then?
Why not just rezone it to A1?
Well, because I think if we rezone it to A1, then basically there's gonna be things in there that we're not gonna allow. If we can't give him any variances, he can't get away from the clubhouse, he can't get away from the restrooms and the showers and all that kind of stuff. He can't get away from that,
Okay.
you know? But if we just said that we looked at this and said, you know what, this could be an accessory use to that, and if we had conditions, but I don't think that the BZA can put those conditions on, but the planning commission could they
I
not?
think the BZA probably could.
Okay,
And, you know, perhaps, and I'm thinking out loud because this is a little bit of a different situation than what we've had.
Yeah.
If this was accessory and we put the stipulations in there and made them a part of the minutes, of course, you know, that it's only open to workers and, you know, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's to function along with the rest of the mining activities, that might just fly. And, you know, we could always come back and amend the zoning resolution to expressly allow for something in this situation, because if we felt like that was necessary, that's still up in the air in my mind. I'm trying to think, I want to make sure we're legal on this.
Yeah.
And, but I don't see, I think what you're trying to do makes perfect sense, really, given the situation. I had a friend who had to move to Florida for work. He stayed in a campground
Yeah.
near an army base, because he was an engineer for the army base, and it's, you know, it just is a logical way to, you know, when it's just one person usually,
Yeah.
and it's,
Yep.
you know, somebody who's, you know, anyway, you know what I'm saying, I don't need to spell it out.
what about handling the septic and the waste?
So there's currently from my understanding, I haven't had full verification yet, I haven't had it scoped or anything, but 1,500 gallon, which for what I imagine our first building set would be more than enough. We've got the drain lines and everything else set up. The way the design would work though is we'd actually have a septic holding tank with the grinding pump inside, and that would pump up to the septic tank because the elevations are different. So it would pump up to the septic tank on site.
Okay,
And that would be done as the levels raise, and it would just pump it up and then go out into the
So that'd be like gray water that would go up to the, I
Yes,
got
sir.
you.
Well, yeah, Tom would have to check it.
well,
Yeah, and we would work with the environmental.
yeah,
as
you're gonna
far
have
as
to,
that's
you're
concerned.
gonna have to have some design work done there to,
Yeah.
as far as that goes, to get, and make sure that everything works for the number of sites that you're gonna get, or you're looking for, as far as it
Yeah, and I
goes.
have alternative designs with 2 or 3 extra tanks. Like I've tried to think of what we can do because it's still very vague as far as how many we'd have to be able to supply.
Okay. One of the other things in you've got, as far as our sites, basically we're saying ours are 35 by 60. You're looking for a 50 by 20, but on your plans you're showing 30 by 60.
That was an old printing. I apologize for that.
Okay.
I caught that mistake, and on a later one I fixed it. So the zoomed in one I fixed it. I didn't catch the further away one. Like I said, I've done a lot of these designs. That was old text that I ended up on there. So if you look The zoomed in one, it is 20 by 50.
Okay, the reason that we go with the 35 by 60 is for fire purposes. We don't want these being too close together, per se, so that's one of the reasons that
Okay.
the 35 by 60 came in, was for
Yeah.
that very reason.
And that's fine. I mean, I figured I would ask because
Okay.
going to a smaller footprint allows for a lot more units, and we do have a fire hydrant on site that's nearby, along with a fire truck. And I'm part of our mine rescue team, and about 75% of us are like certified firefighters, and we live nearby. So,
Okay.
or we volunteer with the fire department. So.
All right.
But that's it.
Would you be providing the campers or travel trailers, or would it be the individuals coming in?
No, yeah, they would bring their own trailers.
They would
If
bring
they
their
don't have
own,
a trailer, then yeah, there's not going to be anything for them.
Okay, gotcha.
Because it would just be.
That would be
for-
one of the requirements for
Yeah,
employment,
but
by default. Yeah, I got you.
shocking number of, I can't say every one of them, but man, it seems like every one of those guys has a trailer and nice big truck, and
I might be the only one in the world that doesn't have one.
I don't either. I look on with envy because it does allow for some flexibility, but I think they do it partly because on a lot of these mining jobs, that's what they do. That's what my friends have done in the past. They just find a campground and they do the transient mining, and it pays really well. But
You know, one way of looking at this, Terry, is, and I'm shooting a little bit in the dark here, but this is very accessory to the mining operation. It's not gonna be open to the public with people coming and going to Dollywood every day and all that sort of thing. And it won't be like, something that needs to be located along, you know, a commercial route where, you know, I guess my point is this is so geared specifically to house the miners. It seems like kind of like a different animal than what we addressed with the RV park standards that are.
Is there not other places in the state that have went through the same kind of situation?
Probably, but I don't know of it. It's never come to my
know, man.
attention.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's migrant workers set up in some things like these in surrounding counties, but
Yeah, sometimes
it's agricultural though, and it's
sometimes they
A1
just
zone.
have single wives sitting out there that they, they,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
I know
Just-
several
just curious.
places like that are trying to build affordable units for workers and stuff.
and I'm, not pointing out anybody doing something wrong, but I know several of our contractors they found a farmer who said, "Yeah, you can hook up to my water," and they're just out in their fields.
Tim?
I don't know nothing about that.
Which is a violation. I'd rather this be,
Yeah, once
I'd
I
rather
found
this
this
be
out,
monitored
I'm
than
thinking
these-
some of these
yeah.
conversations, and I was like, wow,
Yeah,
this
I'd rather
is
this
actually
be-
maybe
yeah.
more of a concern.
Yeah.
well, yeah. I don't feel uncomfortable calling this as an accessory to, as an I-1 zone, because it's not something that these people are gonna be, even staying the 29 days is not gonna come into play, because they're gonna go home after.
Yeah, the 7 and 7 or the
Yeah.
20 and 10.
Yes. Feedback, what y'all think?
I don't really think they ought to have to meet all the stipulations if we
I don't want to either.
rezoned them.
I don't think
Yeah.
we ought to encompass somebody trying to do a job.
True. I mean,
Let them work.
90
we need
days
the
is
miners, we need
Yeah,
the
it's
people.
29 days.
29.
Yeah.
It's 20, and they're only gonna stay 20.
Yeah, they work.
Yeah.
And then they'll go home, but then they can come back.
The camper has to leave though.
I'm
Well,
sure
they
we
can
could
keep
just
their
move
camper there,
spots
but
as
they're not
well if needed to satisfy that, or have a parking spot for them.
They could actually store campers in this I-1 zone, could they not?
Yeah, probably. Hadn't got
They
that
had
far,
to.
Terry, but.
Yeah.
I'll say I might need to start a storage business. I'm looking at apartments because
Well,
Is there any bed facilities there anyway?
bed facilities, no.
None in the sick bay or anything?
No, nurse's office doesn't. There's not a bed in there. No, we've got gurneys and that kind of stuff. We've got a fire truck on site, and things for emergencies to get people out, but you know, it's
I wish we could employ enough locals that
Amen.
well, yeah,
Yeah, really.
that's our desire too, because
Yeah.
it's a lot cheaper, and we could pay them more.
Right.
And we have to hire so many contractors, it costs a lot more money, and then we can't increase the local wages because we can't get enough locals.
Terry, this doesn't really smell like a residential development like what we allow in the other residential zoning districts. This smells awfully accessory to the industry. And, anyway, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I don't know.
Do you see this being a permanent type thing?
Hopefully not, to be honest. If we could phase out our contractors, which I don't see that happening in a year, but let's say over 2 or 3 years, we're able to bring more people locally, get more people involved, get the contractors out, that would be it, and we wouldn't have a need for it.
Okay. I guess what I was thinking was, I didn't know if we could do a term limit or anything like that.
I think the board probably can attach some stipulations.
All right. And then if that term limit ran out and they needed to come, then they could come back and ask for an extension.
If we got an issue, yeah.
And I thought if we went 3 years,
Yeah.
you know, you don't know where you're gonna be at in 3 years. What that does is basically, it doesn't necessarily make this permanent, I would think, I guess. Well, I don't know though. But we still put term limits on there. But when any other business or anything else that come in here would be in an industrial zone, they could meet some of the same requirements, per se.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, since this is an industrial zone, it would not, you know, I know there'd be accessory residences if we allowed this, but it wouldn't affect any neighboring properties. I wouldn't expect, you know, because the industrial mining properties are not nestled up against, at least in most cases, against residential, you know.
and there's an infrastructure here that you're not gonna see scattered about other types of industry in the county.
No,
I mean, you're not gonna have the things in place that they've got in place, just.
no,
with other
you're
stuff.
not, no,
So I mean,
That's it.
this is a specific creature.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking other industrial sectors could try to piggyback if they needed it, but I didn't think about, they're not gonna have the same
Yeah,
utilities,
no.
or a property that's just sitting.
Right.
That's
It's already
basically,
set up.
Yeah,
you and Bushes is basically it, 9-1 in this county,
yeah.
little industrial park here and
So.
there.
Yeah.
So, if we were looking at this, then basically what we would say is that, we wouldn't call it an RV park because it's not for recreation, but we could call it a workers' park, I guess. And, as an accessory to an industrial property. In an I-1 zone. So basically, we would say,
I can't imagine anything that we're talking about adversely affecting other properties.
okay, so an I-1 zone,
I've tried to think of stuff, and I really haven't.
so,
Excuse me.
Your land
with-
footprint won't change either.
with,
We're kind of like doctors. Our first thing is to make sure we do no harm.
Yeah.
maximum stay,
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on, so I'm
Right.
glad that. you guys
29
are thinking of
days.
it.
And then we would have, I still think we should follow our RV site requirements as far as the width and the length of the
Yeah, and that's
sites.
fine. Where it's a fire concern, absolutely will agree with that. Not
So
even a
you're,
question.
you're gonna be back 50 feet from the property line because you're right in the middle of your property.
Yeah.
So you're gonna meet that one. Okay, so I think, all right, your road's gonna be good because it's paved the whole way. We don't even require that. you've got looks like there's 2 lanes coming in and out.
Yes, sir.
So the drives, basically in between what you got there, they're 43 feet. We only
Yeah, every
require
one of them's
12.
40 foot, just to
Yeah.
make sure we have room to turn.
Okay, and, so I'm sure the slope is level going in there, I'm
It's a
sure.
level, yeah.
Okay,
Can I say one of this, sir?
The list?
Yes.
y'all see anything else in here that,
Okay.
So we've got gates there already.
okay,
They're chained and locked, but we would just, where it's automated and RFID, we're going to that for a lot of our gates anyway, so you would have a specifically coded badge, and then our dispatch will have a monitor, so anyone who badges in, it'll notify them, and we'll have cameras set up for it too.
okay. So on your gates, all right, so on your gates here, because basically, they need to have the emergency, they got to have the emergency code. So if the fire trucks and the ambulances come up, they
Yeah.
got to be, and so
Be able to get in, yeah.
they'll be able to get in, okay, then that works. Uh,
Yeah, and that's just
Are you going
the
to,
planning that I've done, but when it goes into final approvals, it could be as simple as, I don't know, we might put the gate closer to the property, but I'd rather put it on the road so there's no confusion.
okay, so one other question I got is that, are you gonna fence around this?
Yes, sir. It'll
Okay.
be a
I don't,
6-foot wood privacy fence.
okay. Only reason I say that is because I don't know how this is gonna work, but, there could be the possibility that these people that come to work there, that their family and their children might come to visit them while they're there, and I don't know if that's gonna be allowed or not, but if it were, I prefer, if it being an industrial site, that there be a fence around this
Yeah,
for that very reason.
and if they requested it, I'm sure that we could broach that topic, but in general, I know one contractor that specifically stays in these RV parks because he brings his family with him.
Okay,
So for somebody who's doing that, this isn't a good fit.
okay,
But somebody who's by themselves, they're single, they got a trailer, they're coming up for their 20s, so they can go home on their 10,
okay,
which that's most of them. But it would be, we have plans for a 6-foot privacy fence around the whole thing.
okay.
That is a good question.
Around just the campground area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and part of that is to delineate because we still have like an old stacker belts, we've got, like there's still old equipment that has been decommissioned but not taken out.
Okay,
Yeah.
And so we don't want people wandering or anything else, so that would be fenced, so, I mean, you'd really have to go to some effort to go into those areas and.
okay. Well,
What kind of term limit we looking at putting on things?
I'm sorry.
What kind of term limit? How long? We talked about that.
I thought, I don't know, I was thinking 3 years. And then at which point in time, then basically, at the end of that time, he would have to, if he needed more, he'd have to come back and,
Yeah, revisit
ask,
the issue, and I
yeah.
think that's fair.
what this does is, this doesn't really make this a permanent thing, it's just a, I don't know. I mean, how do you,
Well, he shouldn't have any trouble getting it redone again in 3 years if need be. right?
well, no, you know, yeah, they may have to come in, it may be, the demand be so much, they say, hey, look, we
We
need
need
50 more
more.
sites because we need 50 more workers, which is a good thing. And so, you know, I would say it would be no different than any other, industry. We allow them to expand on their property if they have
Right.
room. So,
Who bulldogs it if we have the campground conflict? I get to drink them Raisin Cane or whatever.
So, say that again? I didn't catch
If
the
they get
first part.
drunk.
They probably won't be employees anymore.
Okay.
I mean, really,
Maybe
so
that's why you can't hire nobody.
we have had a few go home because they came into work with alcohol in their
Yeah.
breath, and you know what? You're out. So we do alcohol blow every morning. So before you start work, you have to blow clean. Most of these guys, if they go home, they'll have a beer or two. That's not an issue. But if there is concern, we do have our dispatchers that they can call or our
Sheriff's
policemen.
Department.
So, and we'd have a procedure in place to deal with that.
Okay. First thing is everybody in agreement that you feel comfortable with this being as an accessory use in the I-1 zone?
Yes.
Okay, so we've crossed that hurdle. And so the next thing would be is to determine then what, if there's any other particular guidelines that they would need to follow that we have in our rule for, say, under RV parks. So, you know, there's so many things in here he already has, and there's some things in here that he's questioned, but now then, the on-site manager, because he says they have somebody there, because it's the whole, basically the whole site. Because we're not making him delineate. Oh, well, the other question I had was, do they need to come with a site plan?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they said they would here under item C.
Okay,
We'll follow this and work with environmental to ensure compliance.
Yeah.
okay. All right.
What we're thinking is a little more detailed than that, maybe done by a surveyor. We know some good ones here in in the area.
Yeah, I'm still getting support locating all the different lines to make sure that things would be precise, but of course, some of them are holding off because if we can't move forward at all, then it doesn't make sense.
Of course, you don't
I
want to
understand.
waste money, of course.
Yeah. All right.
Terry, I don't have a bit of a problem with being accessory, given the nature of it and
Okay.
its function along with the mining operation.
Okay. So my next question to you is that I think you're gonna meet all the requirements in here, and I'm looking at what you have in red, okay? So some of these are gonna just take care of it because it's on
Yeah.
one side. But if you don't have a problem with, RV site, them being 35 feet wide and 60 feet wide,
We got plenty of space. I was
Okay.
just trying to put more bodies in to see what we could do.
Okay, so-
it's fine.
we'll be good there.
Yep.
And, down here, we've got 10 by 19, now,
Tex, I'm in commission mode.
you know, you've got, when I look here, you probably got enough area in there for your parking, okay? That's where that goes. I don't foresee that being an issue for you, on parking.
Yeah, we can add parking in.
Okay,
there,
so
just-
we're good there. We could say that in a worker's park, that, a clubhouse would not be necessary. Okay, all right, so no clubhouse.
The 24-hour presence or management would be from the Young Mine, which is 2 miles away.
But, well, you've got that whole big site. I mean, this is a part of the whole
Yeah.
shebang, you know, so, yeah.
But this is separated by road though.
Yeah, that's
It
that. I
is.
just want that
Okay.
clarification. So if
Well-
we're assuming that there's somebody at the actual Beaver Creek site, which I've got the bigger map there, it's labeled RV. That's the Beaver
Okay.
Creek site. That will supply Young and Immel mines. Coy doesn't have any contractors. At least I don't think they do. Young and Immel do, and so that would be supporting those 2 mines.
Well, could we could, that'd be one thing that we could say, where it's not gonna come into play then.
Yeah.
We not that, so would be no on-site supervision.
But there would be contact.
Yeah,
Um,
so we've got the water, we got the sewer, we got the electric, we got those needs there. The tent camping,
It's a non-issue.
it's a non-issue, so we're not worried there.
In fact, it's not even a requirement that people have it.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, I
just,
wasn't sure
it's
'cause
just,
it was on
yeah, I
there,
understood,
so-
but the way your comment was written,
Yeah.
Yeah.
sounded like
so-
you needed an exception from that. No, it's just,
And,
Okay.
for some people, some places allow that.
Yeah.
and the on-site storage, that is just, is if somebody wants to do it.
If we provide it.
If you
that's-
wanted to
okay.
provide it, you
So I
could.
don't have to worry about
Yeah.
that.
Right, that's not something you need to have. It's just,
I mean, if somebody wants to bring their boat or whatever else, they can go to the campgrounds, you know, locally and
Okay.
find that crowd.
yeah, store it at Tim's house or something. Just back it in the front yard.
Just leave the keys with him.
Yeah, just leave it with him.
So a worker park and accessory to an industrial park unit located in the I-1 zone, would be allowed. with the stipulation that the days not to exceed 29 days of stay. There would be a site plan that would be presented to us. There would be no need for a clubhouse and no need for a site supervisor. The property would, around the campground would be fenced, and then all other things would follow the development standards per a recreational vehicle park.
What, would you, as the mines, be charging these people?
No.
Okay, I mean,
No,
you
this
may
would
have
just-
said that and I missed it.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking
They would not
in
be
terms of,
charged. This would be, you're coming to work on the site, you're gonna be in slot 1.
okay,
So-
just glad to have them.
Yeah.
I got you. I
We,
got
we
you.
need you here, so go on down and
That ought to be a good draw for,
He's
you
hoping.
know, yeah,
I hope
really.
so. A lot of the Kentucky guys were having issues with that because, you know, coal was dying out there. It's starting to come back, but they'd come down and then they'd be driving back and forth. We had guys that were driving 6 hours a day commute time, 3 hours down and 3 hours back. And none of them lasted. I mean, it's no surprise. That's a lot of driving. Even trying to carpool, that's just too much. So,
Okay. All right.
You put the 3-year deal in there?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I've written that
I
down.
think that would be fair. on
term of 3 years.
And we'd need a site plan just to verify everything.
Yeah, I got that
Yeah.
in here. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that this doesn't give us a pretty good idea, but,
Yeah, I mean that it's still rough. I mean, I could have brought any of the designs I have. I just
okay.
was trying to toy around with what options could we have. So I've got several drawings for the 35 by 60 where we don't clear any land, so no trees come down or anything, and then
We have the
small
35 by
land.
60 in there for most residential campgrounds. People will put picnic tables out, right, Tim, and pull down their canopies, and they need room
Yeah.
to have the grill and, you know, all that sort of thing. So they're a little wider. Of course, they're wider than the actual
Yeah.
camper and that sort of thing. It gives them some room to maneuver so they're not right on top of each other.
All right.
But that's the reason that you see.
Yeah, and
Well-
that's fine too. The
think-
fire thing, that's an easy one. Like that stops the conversation
Yeah.
there. 35 by 60, I'm good.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons for that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call
Plus
this
you
a
got your
workers' park instead of an RV park.
Distance
Okay.
between
But
them.
it's temporary housing.
Yeah, and I think-
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're working 12-hour shifts, but it
29
would probably be nice to have
dollars.
space. add a
Matter of fact, we
picnic
just
table,
may
whatever
call
else
it
as we go. That's not
a
expensive
temporary
to add on
workers'
there
park.
just to
All right.
improve
As
the
an
time
accessory
on
to
there,
an
'cause it's a gravel
industrial
pit,
property,
or, you know,
which is
gravel lot,
located in
so
an
it's-
I-1
Yeah,
zone,
plus
so
it's-
we'll make sure it's an
campers
I-1
can
zone.
Close in
All
on you
right,
sometimes.
with a minimum stay of 29
sit
days
outside and
as
watch the
per what's
stars or
in the
something,
RV
or-
standards.
Maximum.
Max, yeah. And then, we would not require a clubhouse or a site supervisor, per se. He said there were showers and, showers
At the workplace.
at the workplace. Okay, so they would submit a site plan, we would require a fence around the immediate area, and then there would be a term, as of 3 years with, option to review and renew.
So moved.
Was there anything I left out, though?
Did you mention the laundry or exclude the laundry? Because that would be, if we have to have on-site laundry, that's different.
Well,
So for their personal clothes, they're responsible. It's
Okay.
11 minutes away.
so I'm gonna put in, we'll add that to it, no laundry. All right, okay.
Because to be honest, if the contractors bring it up and say this is an issue, we'll figure out a way to provide it for them.
Okay. All right. You know, you could almost bring in just one of those portable units that has bathrooms and they have washers and dryers in them, if you wanted to, if it ever
Yeah.
boiled down to it. They make those on, okay. All right. We got a motion. Does everybody understand that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I second the
And a second. Okay, I got a motion and, proper motion and a second right there. So, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so your next step is that you get your site plan and you'll get on the agenda for the planning commission whenever you get it
How
ready.
quick, are you in a big hurry? course, we meet every
The,
month, I think. I
with the
told you.
change of management, the new general manager said he's interested in this, but he's still restructuring everybody. So this week we did superintendent level, so I think by next week that'll be done. And then any other small changes, so I would assume probably like a month this will get on his radar as far as getting.
Every month, so this is common.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good?
Good luck to you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And your name was Kyle Spalding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. S-P-A-L-D-I-N-G?
There's a U in there.
There's a U in there.
S-P-A-U-L-D-I-N-G.
Okay, I'm glad I asked,
Okay.
just for the record.
All right.
Kyle, thank you.
Yeah, put a big smiley or something on
Yeah,
there.
okay.
I appreciate your guys' time.
You take care.
No other
Thank
items
you.
on the BZA agenda. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Proper motion.
Second motion.
Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.